I know you're gonna dig this.
Hi, this is Stan the Man Brooks, host of Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles, recorded live here at DATV Studios right here in Dayton, Ohio. And let me welcome in the studio today Mr. Emmett Folley and Mr. Larry Humphrey. Good evening
How you
to
doing,
you
guys?
gentlemen. How y'all both doing?
Tapping lightly like a woodpecker with a headache.
I know what you mean, sir. I'm so glad to see it. Man, this is one of an exciting show for me because I'm telling you, Emmett, you have done some vocals and some choreography. You've been in the music and entertainment industry for a long time. Just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, and then Larry, we're gonna just get right with you too, man, because this is an exciting show for me today.
I started off in the original Ohio Players.
Now, when you say original, how original? All the way back from once they come from Falcons to
the group
Ohio Untouchable thing? What do you say?
After the Untouchables, I wasn't allowed to. I had a curfew. Okay,
Oh, you had to get
doing the other part. But the inception of the Ohio Players, who were previously at that time the Ohio Untouchables.
Right.
They first played in November of '66 at the 151 Club out at on Germantown Pike. And that consisted of Satch, Clarence Satcho, Marshall Jones, Greg Webster on drums, and also I think he was managing also then. He had his hands full. Ralph Middlebrook and my cousin Leroy Bonner, who replaced Robert Ward. Bobby Brown, who I came over with, the lead singer at the time. Lead singer, he was awesome, a showman.
Was Bobby the guy that used to kind of impersonate James Brown?
Exactly,
sometime?
James Brown.
Okay.
He had it down on that end. And I would come up and do background vocals and choreography.
Well, man, I know that. And about how long did you continue doing that with them for?
I did that for about a year and a half. I ended up going back to Finney School, Dunbar High, and after that started a group called the Blazes, which consisted of myself, Marvin Thornton, and Holly Mickelson, all other guys who were attending Dunbar also. And
say, age-wise, where were we at?
age-wise, where was I at?
When I say what, late teens, early 20s?
Late teens.
Yeah?
Late teens.
This is the thing about Dayton, Ohio, man. The musicians here, we started so young, because I personally started at the age of 13, you know, professionally, man, just going out doing things. And that's the thing I love about this city, man. Musicians were musicians, you know. We didn't have all that little fancy electronic stuff and things like that, man. You had to know your instrument and know it well. And back in the day, that's what you had to do, you know. And Larry, from what I hear, man, you're one of the baddest bass players from here. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Man, he got fire on his fingers.
The fire on his fingers?
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, he got fire on his fingers.
Well, first I want to give it all to the father, because that's where it came from. But the Ohio Players, all of them were my teachers before I even met them, from the early 70s. Then the early 80s, when I first met Satch, he had formed a group called Satch and Company.
And you were a member of that?
Yes, I was the bass player. In fact, there was another bass player from Springfield that was with him before I was. His name was Melvin Jordan, which is in my new band now. We have 2 bass players.
Oh, so you got a band right now today. We'll
Yes.
talk about that in a little bit. But let's get back to the days when you met Satch. Y'all started this because at the time the Ohio players had. Maybe y'all could tell me more about it, but the players had broke up by then.
Yes.
And Satch went solo with
At
the
that
group.
point, yeah.
Yeah.
And Satch came to me, and we got to talking about what was going on at the band that he had just founded, which was Satch and Company. And since he knew I knew the business, and it's a business that no school teaches it.
Yes, sir.
It's something that, for us particularly on the road management and other structures and the ins and out, you learn on the job, you know. And if you don't already have it, you can't do it. You know, you have to really
So
have it on the ball at that
He
time.
must have had some. He must have had some confidence in you to take care of that part of it, because especially by then he's already had the heights of the players. He was, you know, so as far as road man, he had to make sure that you knew what you were doing.
Exactly.
You know, but Larry, tell me now, when you got with Satch now, just how did that come about?
Well, Satch was looking for another bass player, and I don't remember exactly who it was that introduced us. But when we did get together, I owe Satch so much, Marshall Jones, all them guys, because at the time I was really into Stanley Clarke. And so I'm trying to play all this fancy stuff, and Satch said, "Oh, no, that's not where it's at." And Satch taught me what not to play, and we did a lot of touring together. And, I really learned a lot from him. Then I met Sugarfoot through Satch,
Okay.
and Pee Wee and Jones, and I just got a lump in my throat. I'm trying not to.
Well, I have to say, man, we've lost some great musicians here, but the players who you know, we just lost another one not too long ago. So, y'all gentlemen, come on now. This is what I'm here for. I want to know some history about back then in the 70s and 80s when y'all were together. What influence these guys did for you, and or how did you help them in their business part of it to make sure things was right? You know, so this is what the whole show is about, is just trying to get our viewers to understand the funk and the funk history.
Well,
So-
for me, it was and still is. It's an honor to be affiliated with Satch, Pee Wee, Sugar, Jones, and like I said, they taught me so much about music, and not only about funk music, because them guys could play just about everything.
They did. They
And
really did.
my first road experience was on the road with Satch, because I had never done any traveling, and that's when I had met Emmett. And like I said, I was young, and I know Emmett had his hands full just being the road manager, but myself, I was pretty wild. And they,
You know, you hear people, you know, Emmett, you hear people talk about road managers a lot. Give me a few details of what really what's the responsibility of a road manager?
You want the long version or the short one?
If it's too long,
list
we'll edit
goes
it
on.
out. I'm just
Okay, the short version is basically you're a babysitter for a bunch of grown men with egos.
Okay. All right, well, that makes sense.
Basically, it entails tour structure, scheduling for the PR, radio stations, TV interviews, news interviews, setting up certain things that are promoting the band or its music or the show in context with the promoter, and seeing that everybody's where they're supposed to be on time, whether they want to or not. Finding out what motivates one person over another person to make sure that they're doing the right thing. Generally in all groups there's I don't care who it is. There's always one that just
I know what you're talking about
you
too.
got to give a little extra attention. All right? That's what I say on that. A little extra attention.
Nice way to
And
say that.
still keep him in the loop. Getting the guys up at a certain time for the early interviews, limousines down and at the lobby, and you got to have everybody down there at a certain time, regardless of what they're doing.
The night before.
And
Yeah, good luck with
into the morning and all the rest of it, you know. And just keeping everything moving slowly, consistently at a certain pace. Mine is to recognize a problem at the microscopic level and eliminate it before it gets to the macrocosm. And if I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing and on my job like I should be on it, or someone that's performing that job, it never gets to be a big problem.
Well, Larry, you make it sound like he had his work cut out.
He really did.
Especially with a few people. And,
I didn't see it then, but
no,
I was.
No, on that particular end, he was too busy doing stuff. You know, that's the truth about it. Now, when he got older and he was away from Satch and Company, he had his own situation. Then he got a chance to see, because he had some knuckleheads like they were, some of the guys, you know, and he had to deal with it. You know.
And I'm not gonna mention no names, but that one that he was talking about was not me. That needed the extra attention. But back to your main question, I really cut my teeth as far as being on the road was with Satch.
Okay.
That was my first time.
Okay, everybody knows about the Ohio Players and Satch and the group, but let's talk a little bit about Satch and Company. Let's talk a little bit about that, the group, the members, if you can remember all names or whatever. Just kind of give us a little history about that, and how that formed, places that y'all went. How was the public accepting Satch in a whole different set? Those are kind of things that interest me.
As far as acceptance, was always a positive situation. There were several times we were out on contract, and everything we did was by contract. If after the night and everything was done, the show was done, the promoter would ask how soon we could come back, basically, or if we could even stay over, like if we had a dead day or two, we could stay over, and immediately, you know, like just threw money at us, you know, and full rider, and it wasn't a problem. Received very well.
Well, then, all right, was the group promoted, like Satch, formerly of the Ohio Player type thing? So in other words, when your audience comes, they're now expecting what?
Ohio Players.
That's what that's.
It made our job hard.
So in other words, was I'll say, when you go see Satch and Company, then as far as songs were concerned, what did y'all do?
He did a lot of the songs that made the Players famous, and he done some original material and some covers. But he done, which the Ohio Players is still today my favorite group. So I knew every line, every bass line, I knew the stuff inside and out. So, but he did a lot of stuff like Fire, Skin Tight, Roller Coaster, Wanna Be Free, LOV, Love, I Don't Want to Be Alone. And I got a chance to sing that stuff.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did, because Sugarfoot was my hero. I wanted to do everything Sugar did. I wanted to do. I wanted to be just like.
Did you try to even sound like him?
I tried to be him. I tried everything, because he was just. And then when Satch found out that me and Sugar were under the same zodiac sign, because he was into that stuff then, and it just, I don't know, it was a different experience for me.
Everything just gelled.
Great, man. Well, gentlemen, today I'm so glad to have you both here, because I also want to bring to your attention the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center here that we have in the big city of Dayton, Ohio. We couldn't have that funk center without musicians and like you two that has made our city come alive. But I just wanted some of your input on what do you think about it, reason why you feel we needed it, and just give me a little input on what do you think about our funk museum here in the big city of Dayton.
I haven't. I haven't seen it yet. I've heard about it. I think it's wonderful. I think it's well deserving of the artist, and I want to be a part of it. I want to know what I can do to help.
Well,
So that's where I stand on it. I want to help in some kind of way.
well, you know, like I'm looking at some pictures of Satch and Company and things like that, and you got a uniform. You got something that you remember anything? A shirt, a hat, or anything that could go into that museum, man, to let people know that Satch went on after the Ohio players, and you were one that he couldn't have done it without, you know.
That's
so
one thing I don't have. That's about
Pictures
all I
and-
have.
All we had
is
was
them
pictures left on that one, and there's some
Because we did have some
news
shirts
write-ups
at one
in
time.
different newspapers, different columns. Yeah, we had some of that.
Look in that
possibly.
basement, man. I'm pretty sure you can find your shirt.
I might be able to find
Let's
some
see.
old posters.
Let's see. Okay.
I had a bunch of posters from different tours. I need to try to find some of that stuff.
So the year of Satch and Company, and about how long did that last?
From 80 through about the
85.
middle of 83, 84.
Maybe.
84.
I thought it was 85. 84. I think
About 84.
it's about 4 to 5 years.
Oh, that's great,
It's a
man.
nice little stretch.
Well, Emmett, how do you feel about the museum?
As far as the museum is concerned, I feel it's a great thing. I feel it's something that's needed here. Dayton, really, as far as I'm concerned, has been on life support for the last 30 years, you know, and just about anything that can pump some blood in this sucker, you know, like, is definitely a positive situation. You had Ohio players here that prototype the situation as far as the funk. Lakeside, Sun, Slave, Roger Troutman, a friend of mine I come up with, Johnny Wilder with Heat Wave.
Yep.
And these are all influences that I think that really, for all of this to have come out of Dayton, you hardly ever hear anything. You hardly ever hear anything about it as far as on a statewide level, as in other states and cities when they have other acts coming out of their cities. You hear about them all the time. Dayton, in my opinion, as far as the black acts, there's not a lot of promotion and push here. And I think that's a shame. And this situation here with the Hall of Fame, Funk Music Hall of Fame, I think that's a shot in the right direction.
You better believe it, man, because that's the whole point. Is letting the whole world know where the home and what we call the home of funk come from.
That's right.
And you can't sit here and have 6, 7, 8 nationally known groups, and you know this is, and all of them had very big hits, and still today half of them are still at least have some type of members going on that road, keeping their legacy alive. I just seen Lakeside, the original Lakeside, not too long ago.
Yeah.
You still have Zap out on the road, so they're keeping the funk alive,
Yeah.
man. And with this museum, this is what makes people want to come back home, take a look at it, and see exactly the history that goes with this. And the thing I like about the center, we're not just having you come and look at a few old guitars and flutes and drums. We're talking about this is a learning center for young people. We're having people mentor them.
Yes.
It's one of those kind of things. I see a lot now. Back in the day when I was in high school, you had marching bands in high school with 100, 150 members. marching band because everybody was playing instruments. You don't see that no more, especially in the minority side of town. You just don't see that.
Well, you got a situation where they cut the budgets as far as a lot of the arts to a lot of these different schools and stuff here in Dayton. I mean, they don't have much going on in school, from what I've seen and was told about the quality of the education here, generally. And as far as the jobs, where the federal government used to provide jobs for kids who were going to high school, if they're middle class and poor and whatever, they don't do that anymore. There's nothing for the kids to do around here. Then you expect them, what, just sit around and twiddle their thumbs? I'm not, advocating,
that's
some of
why
the crap,
the
but they're
museum
doing
now
the,
is so important.
Yes.
The museum is so important because we're trying to, one, show them the history of what's been going on way before their time, and then secondly, get them to understand that the instrumentation is still very important, man.
Yes, it is.
I just to watch a young person now play a piano is exciting to me because I still say, well, we still got a little hope. You know what I'm saying? And with the Funk Museum here, man, and the way that we're trying to mentor our kids and show them exactly what we can do in helping them in their musical and arts career. And I tell you, Emmett Folley is here with us here on the show, and Emmett, man, your input could help us out a lot, even if it's the business side of that, because of your knowledge. And this is the things that we want to talk about later on, down the road, hoping that maybe you can put in your professional input on some of that and let some of these kids understand there's a business side of the entertainment world that a lot of us just ignore until it's too late. You know what I'm saying?
You just said it.
very important.
So, hey, but Larry, tell me a little bit about that. Huh? I see this one. It's called Drop It On The One.
Drop It On The One.
Is this your latest?
Oh, because that's where the funk is, Barbara.
All right.
I learned that from Bootsy. It came from James Brown.
Oh, yeah.
But, it's a combination of all original compositions. Some funk, contemporary jazz, and some vocal work.
Well,
And I recorded everything myself. I brought in a lot of different musicians to get a diverse sound, a different sound. The more input, the better.
well, it's called Larry C. Humphrey's Drop It On The One.
Drop It On The One.
And we're going to take a listen to that later, man, because I'd like to
Okay.
hear a few cuts off of
Oh,
that.
you'll definitely be liking what you got. It's going to hit something there. I can promise you that.
Can I share something with you?
Please do.
Back to the Ohio Players. They've always been my favorite group and still is today. I used to find myself cussing at my television set if I would see that what people would be talking about. They had that show where they were showing all the old school funk bands.
Right.
And I'm sitting there waiting for the Ohio Players, and it never came. I'm like, how can you talk about old school funk and the music back in the day and not talk about, eventually they did. But I used to get so mad. I'd be cussing at, y'all didn't say nothing about the Ohio Players. Like them people can hear me.
Yeah,
But I mean, they were a very strong force, man, and you know.
Well, Sugarfoot always told me this. He said it. He says, you know what? After we got into the million album sales and stuff, and that they were selling out arenas back in the day, he would get upset because of the idea that he always said, but you come home, I never got no respect when I come home. But you know what? And I'll say this right quick, and then I'm going to let you gentlemen say your final words. But I'll never forget, I was emceeing the show at Memorial Hall. Sugarfoot came from the back up on stage, and it was a Johnny Taylor, it was a blues show.
Right, I was
But
there
the
with it.
musicians
They knew who he was.
Right.
Right.
Hugged that guy, man, autographs. Now this is Johnny Taylor's band, who are
Right.
older musicians. These are
Right.
not, these wasn't young little musicians. But Johnny Taylor's band just swarmed him, man. You know, just like these little teenagers would do a Michael Jackson thing. Swarmed him, got autographs, and it just made me feel good because, you know, I know how well of a musician this guy was and the influence that he had on many guitar players throughout the world, man.
And then we all went downstairs for that little meet and greet thing down there.
Yeah. I emceed that show.
Yeah.
So it was a lovely thing.
And Marshall was just superb, beautiful person. And first came in, he was living up on Clarkston with his mom. And Satch was around on Burley, Herman, Carroll. And Greg Webster, he was across town, he was staying between here and Hamilton. And it was a situation, you know, it was a lot of fun. The influence that after I left, I mean, it's like I got funkatized.
Yes.
You know, I got funkatized, and after I left to go back to school, it just stayed with me, you know, because it's like feeling of euphoria, but also the feeling that you're adding something and giving something of yourself as far as your craft, and it's the enjoyment that you got from the people and making them move, you know. And if you're doing it correctly, it's a lot of power you got up there on that stage. I love the feeling, you know. Yeah. I like to see the people dance. I like the feeling of the funk, okay? It kept me moving.
He just sparked something.
Go ahead, Larry.
That Satch said years ago on the album. Can a hand touch you from across the room? Can I make feelings happen to you and never have seen you? Feelings. And that's what funk music is. It's like Bootsy says, it's a way of life. It's you know.
Well, I tell you, when it comes to the museum, gentlemen, whatever that you could help us with in a way of getting that word out, letting people know what we're doing, we sure appreciate it. And
you got it.
And you know, Larry, any other musicians that you're playing with now, please let them know what's going on here. Because I'm pretty sure now that you're playing with musicians that have probably played with other groups or something in that where they could kind of at least make sure that we get this word out about this, man, because we're trying our best to make sure that this is not just a little Dayton joint. This is going to be a nationally known funk museum, and we want to make sure that you two be a part of it, for sure.
I'm honored.
Not a problem.
I'm honored.
And
very gracious. What do you have as far as promotion? Sponsors I'm looking at.
Well, we've got
major sponsors.
Major sponsors are on their way. We're trying our best to make sure that we will get in with all the other sponsors that we have here to make sure that this thing gets off the ground and get off right. It's been in the making for a few years now, so we're just honored, man, to get this thing off the ground here in right here in Dayton, because like we said, this is the home of the funk.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's the home of the funk, and so when it comes to, I know y'all talked about Satch, y'all talked about the Ohio players, but before y'all go, give me a few more influences that makes you now just continue doing what you're doing.
James Brown, Bootsy,
You know.
Catfish.
Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Catfish.
Marshall
Catfish
Jones is still one.
There's so many for me,
Exactly.
man. We'd be here
Since
all
we
night.
just-
Tiny Brown was also a blues guitarist out of here that had influence.
Little Woo Woo.
The Reed brothers, Little Woo Woo, who used to play with them Imperials, I believe. You know,
Well, Morocco's.
Morocco. Okay.
Yeah, little Woo Woo and the Morocco's back in the day, and then I
Shirley Murdoch, you know.
And then
you got a number of
and y'all had the pleasure
artists.
of working with my uncle, Mr. Carl McDaniel,
Yes.
at C and Satch and Company.
Bad.
Huh?
Bad back in the day. Bad. We had that was a smoking group right there with Craig Brown on keyboards, Charles Pritchett on drums, Carl McDaniel. myself and Satch. It was kicking.
Well, I'll tell you what, gentlemen. I want everybody to know that this museum is moving forward with 2 more great musicians and choreographer and manager. And, you got so many titles there. So.
Well, right now I'm doing acting. In this play, Mama Knows a Lot, but Grandma Knows Everything.
You in a
and
play?
It's coming up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
First time I've done a play. I've done 3 or 4 movies, but it's the first time I've been involved in a play, since I was out of school, And that's a gospel play. It's going to be showing out here sometime in August. So it's another thing that, another tentacle to the octopus.
Right.
There we go.
Oh man, that's all right. Let's just get on that just for a second, because that's something that interests me, because that's also part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to do all arts down there, and if you're talking that you had that experience of some acting, what can some of these young people do to try to get into that field right quick?
Practice. Apply. If they hear about a play, there are people auditioning for different things. Actually show up, apply, audition, and see what you have.
Stay focused.
Exactly. You put yourself in position to do what you need to do to get you where you want to go. Just to imagine it and think about it and leaving it there without the action, it's nothing but a hallucination.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. I am so thankful. I'm 60 years old and still doing it. I mean, it's not over until it's over. So let's keep on pushing.
Well, Larry, I tell you this, man. A bass player with the experience and the groups that you've played with, and I'm just so happy that you had a chance to come down to the studios here and let us know exactly what Mr. Larry Humphrey is still doing, And man, on behalf of yours truly, I want to thank you, man. I really want to thank y'all so much for coming in.
It's our pleasure.
So what I'm asking you one more time before we get out of here today, what is it that you would like your fans to remember Mr. Larry Humphrey today, on what you can do with the Funk Museum, what they can do as far as listening to you? Just let them know exactly what you're doing, and we really appreciate you coming out.
Keep God first, and in the words of Bootsy and the Cats, keep the funk alive. Keep your ears open for Drop It on the One. I have somebody working on a website for me, but I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
But the new CD is Fun K.
All right.
And thanks to Satch and all my cats for, guiding me in the right direction.
Well, again,
and Diamond, my favorite drummer of all times.
Well, man, we appreciate it. And again, Emmett, thank you so much, man. Appreciate
it. My pleasure, my pleasure.
All righty. Well, this is Stan the Man Brooks, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. And until next time, keep it funky.
This is Willie Clark reporting live from Studio One in Springfield, Ohio. In breaking news today, some new funk has been dropped and is rapidly spreading around the nation.
Ready to drop this, man? Yeah. Oh, you got to drop it on the wall.